Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Welcome to a very wet and miserable day here in the UK. I've been wanting to make this video for the past couple of days, but unfortunately I've had a bit of a sore throat and now a cold, or flu, for those of you who aren't in the UK. Do they call the flu a cold in other parts of the world? I don't know, but anyway, I have a flu, I have a snotty nose, bear with me. Now the reason I wanted to make this video is because it's a follow-up to the video I made about why I hate this car, and a lot of people have commented on that video and quite a few people have watched it now, which is great. And as I've said a few times, I appreciate all of the comments I receive on any of my videos, because it's interesting to get somebody else's perspective and insight, whether they own an S3 or whether they feel I'm wrong about something. And that's where this video comes into play, because there were a few things I wanted to confirm. Now with hindsight, when I made that video, I made it I just kind of went out with my camera. I didn't really have any set agenda. I just decided to talk about the things I liked and the things I disliked about this car, and that was it. That was as far as the thought process went. Now, a lot of you would probably react and say, well, you should have planned the video, and you're right, I should have. But actually, in not planning the video, I was able to talk more honestly about the things I actually dislike. And a few of those things are small, you know. I love this car, otherwise I wouldn't have bought it. So a few of those things are very small, minor things that I've picked up on after nearly fast approaching 2 years of owning this car, and coming up to, I think, 32,000 miles now. Now, I bought this car because I wanted a quicker car than I had previously had. Okay, I've always liked Audis, I've always had a bit of an affinity with Audi, and I wanted to own an S3. That was one of my goals in life. You know, I'm a bit older now, it seems a bit juvenile to have an S3 as a goal, but I won't get into the whys and whats. But I was very happy when I achieved that goal. I'm still very happy I achieved that goal, and I still like this car a lot. However, the things I mentioned in that video still annoy me, and I don't think it matters whether you are a good or bad driver. It doesn't matter whether you use this car on a track or whether you use it as a daily like I do. The things that annoy me. That doesn't mean they have to annoy you. And at the beginning of that video, or somewhere in that video, I'm sure I said it, and if I didn't, I'm going to say it again now. I'm not a car expert. I don't know the ins and outs of this gearbox. I don't know the technical referencing of the engine components. I just like to drive. Now, am I an expert driver? No. Can I drift a car? Yeah, I can drift a car. But can I drift a car like Chris Harris can? No, I cannot, okay? But that doesn't mean that the points I raised about this car are invalid, because at the end of the day, I drive this car every day, this particular car every day, and those are the things that annoy me. Now, the paint and a few of the other points I mentioned were probably a bit harsh, but considering I started the video by saying I was going to talk about 5 things I hated, without really putting much thought into it, I was kind of talking off the cuff. So, you know, I was clutching at straws, because ultimately this car is still a great car. It's still a great car to drive. It still looks great. But again, the gearbox can be a little laggy when you're driving at slow speeds, especially where I live. It's very hilly around here. The roads are a little uneven. There's a lot of starting and stopping, a lot of slow moving traffic, and when I'm just trying to get from point A to B without thinking about, you know, racing around like a hooligan, it can be a bit annoying. The other thing I wanted to touch on was the fuel economy, because I didn't
have any grand ideas around the average miles per gallon I was going to get out of this car. I had an Audi A3 prior to this, which was a diesel engine, which got great miles per gallon. I think it was kind of early 60s. Great car. I didn't think I would get the same coming into this car, and it doesn't really bother me. I gave up on worrying about how much I was spending on fuel a long time ago. It's just not important to me. It's not something I care about. But what I do care about is how far below this car is to what Audi quote it as being for what I would consider as normal driving. Like I said, I use this as a daily car, which means I drive to work. I go to Tesco or supermarkets. I use it as a car. It's not in my garage, and I'm not always racing around. I can't anymore, especially at the weekends. If Courtney's with me, she's pregnant, that inevitably changes your driving style. But even driving this car in comfort, not being very hard on the accelerator, braking with plenty of time, etc., it's not what they say it is. And that's my issue with the fuel. It's not, oh, I don't get 35 miles per gallon, therefore this car's shit. It's, well, Audi say you can, and I want to know how you can, because I definitely don't get it. Now, some of you who own S3s might get 35 miles per gallon, and that's great, especially if you do a lot of motorway driving. I don't, so maybe that's where I'm going wrong. I think I've alluded to this in prior videos, but my drive to work is predominantly country lanes. There is no motorway that I go on to get to work, so maybe that's where I'm going wrong. Who knows? But I get, on average, I'm going to check now, well, currently, because we're driving quite slow and there's a transit behind me that's starting to get the amp, I can tell, we're getting 24 miles per gallon, so that's fine. You know, we're in 6th gear, we're taking it easy, fine. But I genuinely can't remember a time where it's ever gone above 30 for a consistent amount of time. You know, 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes of driving, or even on an average journey, I've never got close to 30 miles per gallon, and that was my point. So I wanted to clarify that, because a lot of people have rightfully commented on the previous video saying, well, what did you expect? And they're right, but my counter to that is, well, I expected it to be a bit closer to what Audi said it would be. That's all, you know, that's all. And then a few people have commented to say, well, if you have these issues with the with your S3, why on earth would you buy an RS3? And that's a good observation. And I think that comes down to how I portrayed myself in that previous video. I think I came across as quite dismissive of this car. Again, not being a car expert, I wasn't really able to go into much detail or technical detail around the issues I have, so they came across as quite vague. But ultimately, they don't actually bother me to the point where I would sell this car tomorrow and buy a A3 diesel, for example. I completely understand and am aware that some of those issues, miles per gallon, the stiffness of the ride, etc., those come with the territory of having a car like this, of buying into a performance car. And I like that. The pros always outweigh the cons in these scenarios. Yeah, the ride is hard, but the sound of the car and how nimble it is outweighs that for me. And the same would apply to the RS3. There are some changes I would like to make to the spec of the car. I think MagRide could make a difference. Maybe it won't. But again, the sound, the look, the you know, how quick that car is, etc. Those things outweigh the stiffness of the ride. You know, the video was very topical. It was 5 things I hate about this car. Not 5 things I kind of dislike, but actually they don't bother me video. And not to come across as defensive or, you know, dismissive of any comments, I just wanted to clarify that I like this car a lot. I still very much like this car today just as much, or maybe more so than I did yesterday or last week. And the RS3 is a good progression in the right direction for me. It's a step up, and what appeals to me about the RS3 is the cost. You know, I think the car would be a lot more affordable for me. I think I could probably stretch to an RS6, but maybe that's a little beyond reasonable. And what I mean by reasonable is if you're spending more money per month on a car than you do on your mortgage, then you should probably take some time to reevaluate your priorities, because there needs to be a balance between owning a car that you love and the quality of your life. And I don't want to be spending too much money on a car that I'll love without having a quality of life that could support that enjoyment, if that makes sense. So, and there are other things to consider, such as servicing, tyres, what if something goes wrong, etc. Inevitably it's going to be more expensive on an RS6 than it would be in comparison to an RS3. But, you know, I don't really need to justify my logic. It's a bit skewed, I know, it's a bit odd, but that's my thinking. Now, I'm hoping a little later in the year to actually see an RS3 in the flesh, the saloon in the flesh, to, you know, figure out if I like it. I like the S3 saloons. I think I'm going to like the RS3 saloon, but I just want to double check and be sure. Now, something else I wanted to touch on were my M3 videos. Again, I think I came across as a little dismissive of that car. I think there were more things I disliked about that car than I possibly liked. Unfortunately, I had not the greatest experience driving an M3 for the first time. You know, the car was, well, it just weren't in great condition, to be honest, considering its year, and also it had something wrong with it. So, BMW have very kindly sent me another M3, which should be arriving today, sometime this afternoon, and I'm hoping that getting into that car and just kind of watch this space. More videos on the M3 coming soon. I'm actually going to be driving it into London tomorrow. I'm driving it into London because we are attending the baby show at the XL. I'm in two minds whether to bring you along or not, but our priority for going to the XL tomorrow is to attend the baby show, but is to invest in another four-wheeled vehicle, for lack of a better term, which is a pushchair. So maybe I'll bring the camera along and show you that journey and the investment into the pushchair and what we choose, etc. Something a bit different. We'll call it a dad vlog. But that is my video on, you know, 5 things I dislike about this car, part 2. I've never professed to being an expert, so if you're coming here to learn about the size of the screws you need to replace the rocker cover, go somewhere else, because that's not me. Okay, I'm just someone who likes driving and is feeling in the dark with the videos I'm making. So, before I ramble on any more, I'm going to thank all of you for watching all of my videos, all of the likes, all of the dislikes, all of the comments, all of the replied comments. I try to reply to all comments on my videos, and it's good to see that people are engaged enough to reply back to me. I'm always happy to have any dialogue with anybody. You know, hash out some details, tell me where I'm wrong, etc. I'm always willing to learn, and if you know more about a car than me, I'm not going to try and argue with you or pretend that I know more. But yes, I'm going to finish this up. I'm about to nip into Tesco to grab some medicine. So, it's Friday, it's raining, but it is the weekend. So, thank you very much for watching. I hope that you have a good weekend, and until the next video about the BMW M3, peace.